This is the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where we have conversations with everyday martial artists about their histories and how martial arts influence their daily lives. You are listening to the abbreviated version of this podcast, which is the first 20 minutes or so of the show. Please consider supporting the show by subscribing on our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/MALMAG, and for about the price of one coffee shop coffee per month, you can get access to 4 new podcasts each month, 1 week before their YouTube release dates. You also have access to all of our existing shows, which at this point is about 100 hours of shows for you to enjoy. Individual shows can be purchased at our Gumroad page. That is malmag.gumroad.com. If you're looking for some sticks for FMA, some cool t-shirts, or even a course on Dos Manos, have a stop by martialartslifestylemagazine.com and click on the store tab or on the courses tab for that course. This week I get on Zoom and I connect again to St. Louis and I talk with martial artist Shaun Snow, and we talk about how he got into martial arts, watching the classic martial arts instructional videos, and building better people through martial arts, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and today I'm connecting to St. Louis again, and it seems like I've been doing a little ping pong between St. Louis and Canada the last 4 shows, like Canada, St. Louis, Canada, St. Louis, and then next week we'll be back to Canada again, which is crazy. Or no, we won't. I'm trying to think where we'll be next week. It doesn't matter anyway. So I'm back to St. Louis here, and I'm talking with a gentleman that I've just kind of met basically on the dumpster fire that is the social media world out there, and it seemed like kind of a kindred spirit. Someone like, I think what you commented a few times right away, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy, I like this guy. So, we got to, got to hit it off there. So this is Shaun Snow from St. Louis. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tim. Thanks. Thanks for having me on. It's really cool.
Of course. Well, let's kind of start at the beginning. How'd you get involved in martial arts? The when, where, why, and how kind of thing.
Oh yeah, sure. So I think I'm 47. So you're probably, I think you're probably a couple of years older than me, and maybe 10 years older.
Yeah, like almost 8, to be honest.
Oh, there you go.
I'll be 55 here in a couple of weeks.
Well, there you go. So like, you're now hitting the generation where I was aware, Bruce Lee, of course. I think that's probably one of almost everybody's. But really, the thing that made me first want to train was the Karate Kid, which I think you're hitting. My generation, we really grew up. That was a big movie that came out. And the Karate Kid was like, that's really cool. I want to do that. And and being an adult, when I was a kid, I was like, I just want to be like Daniel. I want to be like Daniel-san. He's so cool. And then as I got older, I realized, oh no, it wasn't that I wanted to be him. It's I wanted to meet somebody like Mr. Miyagi.
Right.
It's like my parents got divorced when I was very young, and I didn't really have a father figure around most of the time. I mean, my mom had boyfriends and whatnot, but they weren't right. So I think I didn't realize it at the time, but I was like, I really wanted somebody to kind of be a father figure, give me that direction, that support that, he got from Mr. Miyagi. And that's what really got me interested in training in the first place. But that very quickly, once, Kung Fu Theater on Saturday morning TV,
of course.
Enter the Dragon, Game of Death, just seeing all those old movies really got me much more interested in. But I think that the Karate Kid was my initial, this is something that I want to do.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's understandable. I sometimes don't realize how big of an impact that was to people right behind me, which essentially, and we're kind of the same generation, but you were definitely in grade school, I'm going to assume, when that came out, right?
Yeah, I think it came out in 85, so I was 8. So I was in first or second grade, something like that.
Yeah.
So around 84, 85. So yeah, I was right there.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing for me is that was high school for me.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a thing in English class where we would get these publications. I don't even know what we call them. They were like a newspaper,
Yeah, no,
as
I
far
remember
as
that.
like the stuff. But yeah, and what we got in my freshman year of high school, which was 83, 84, was a stage play version of it
Oh wow.
in this reader. Yeah, so I actually knew the plot and knew the story, or at least a Reader's Digest version of
Huh.
it, with pictures from the upcoming film. So I'm
Oh
just like,
wow, that's pretty cool.
it didn't say it was a film. I'm just reading this going, well, these pictures look like they're from some actual movie. Like,
Yeah.
what's the deal with this thing? But it was cool. And the funny thing was, I had been in karate for about, let's see, 85, for about 3 years at this point. I started in 82. And what was really strange to me was I was like, okay, so my teacher was more like Mr. Miyagi. And we did have a karate school in the area that was exactly like Cobra Kai. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, dead on. These guys would travel in packs of five, wear their
Oh, geez.
shirts, act like tough guys. And I thought, holy crap, how did this movie know about blankety blank school of karate? I'm like, that's so weird. It's completely based on this place. And then you realize, no, that's just an unfortunate common
Yeah, really.
attitude with schools. So it was like they were just addressing an issue between bullying and what like the spirit of these martial arts is really supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I guess it was interesting being like I said, a little older, high school age at that time. Yeah, it had a big impact on me, 100%. But it wasn't like I had already known. I was already kind of already in it for
Yeah.
other reasons. But it's interesting to understand that was, and you're not the first person who said that in these interviews, how much the Karate Kid
Yeah.
was a beginning, like a thing that really got them involved. And that's really cool. I like that because I think that put people on the right, in my opinion anyway, the right character building mold of martial art,
Yeah.
which I like.
No. Yeah, I agree. Like I think even as a kid, like, yeah, the fights were cool. I mean, being able to beat up your bullies was a cool idea, but it really was like the philosophies that Mr. Miyagi espoused that were really the most intriguing, and what really drew me into martial arts just in general was just the ideals of defending the weak, not fighting unless you have to,
Right.
only fighting in self-defense. Those were things that really appealed to my internal moral compass.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think a lot of us, especially, I mean, I grew up essentially just up the river from you on the Illinois side
Oh
in
wow.
Quad City, Quad City
Oh
area.
okay.
So
Yeah.
where John Deere's home office is.
Yeah.
So I spent many of my summers riding the Screaming Eagle there at Six Flags St. Louis.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, exactly. So St. Louis is a place that's a neighbor to me essentially. And I understand the value system coming out of the area, and it's like I think a lot of us were approaching it. We wanted to be better people,
Yeah.
and so that made sense.
Yeah, that's definitely part of I think what appealed to me. And it's funny that when I started, it was the first school I went to was, I think it was called World Systems Institute. It sounded like a tech college.
Uh-huh.
It was some indiscriminate form of Kempo. They never really got into it. I know it wasn't connected with Ed Parker's schools, as far as I knew.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that, like, my mother at the time was very hesitant to enroll me in the school even after seeing the Karate Kid, because they wore black gis.
Oh, so they look like Cobra Kai.
and you called the teacher sensei, which from the movie
Right.
my mom just thought was like this sort of villainous, because they called priest sensei, and I was like, no, that's just the word for teacher. And the blackies just look cool. It just looks cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just different and it looks cool. So yeah, it was an interesting thing for her. I mean, I think I only went there for about a year, because as an 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid, I didn't really have the attention span to really, I guess, apply myself properly.
Yeah.
I screwed around a lot, as kids are wont to do, and it
Yeah,
was
as
not
they
cheap.
should
And my
do.
mom was like, "I'm not paying for this if you're going to screw around." And so that was about a year or so, I think. And then after that, I didn't officially train anywhere for a few years. And then once I hit fifth grade, my fifth grade teacher was a instructor, and of course, yet
Of
another
martial arts?
another
Oh, wow.
nebulous, what he called Japanese freestyle karate.
Okay.
I don't know what that means even now.
Means
But
unaffiliated, I'm guessing, right?
I'm assuming, a mixture of, probably like the stuff that was popular at the time, Kenpo, and like Goju Ryu, stuff like that.
Right.
And he taught us, so he taught that, and he taught some jujitsu. So I trained with him for a year when I was a kid. I really enjoyed that a lot too. Still a lot of fun. It was a nice step up because I was a little bit older, so we did a little bit of sparring. And like I said, we did some jujitsu stuff. So I learned some very early Japanese jiu-jitsu style grappling. So no groundwork, obviously, at that point. And then that was for like a year. And then from then until 8 or 9 years ago, I guess it was, I really just trained with people that I just happened to meet who were martial artists. And I think I mentioned this on the as you said, the dumpster fire of social media.
I can't think of a better description for that thing.
That is a 100% description without going into any less tasteful words to describe it. Dumpster fire is perfect. But I worked at a martial arts supply store for a couple of years for summers, and
my God. Yeah, that was something you brought up, and you were talking about your access to Panther videos. I said, oh my God, the dream, dude.
Dream. It was like the world's greatest blockbuster for me at that point in time. I mean, I watched, I think, Guru Inasano's the first 6 volumes of the Filipino martial arts, probably 20 times. Some of Paul Vunak's videos. There was some of, I think it was Mark Stewart, the Wing Chun guy.
Yeah.
So she had just a wall of stuff, some Muay Thai stuff. They were from the owner and her brother. She was the owner. They were from Thailand, and her husband, they ran this store, and their family ran a Thai restaurant that was down the street. And then her brother,
beautiful,
a Muay Thai fighter in Thailand, not professionally, but like amateur. And then, so like, I was just surrounded constantly, and it was the greatest time. Honestly, like the greatest time of my life. I mean,
yeah,
that's like when people talk about like, oh, what do you want to go back to? I'm like, that was great. Those summers were great.
Yeah.
That I could just immerse myself in all of that martial arts. And
see, that's like always a fun personal question I have for people, and it's more of an in-person thing because it's not necessarily martial art related, but it's always like, what part of your life would you Groundhog Day a little bit? And that's your answer right there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, it's just maybe take those videos and make copies of them so I can have them still. Like, something like that. I wasn't quite that forward thinking back then.
Right. Well, it wasn't that easy to do at that time either. You had to have a pretty decent 2 VCR setup. And then, like idiots back in the day, we're like, oh, yeah, well, if I put it on this mode, I can get 6 hours on one tape.
Oh, God.
Not understanding that, here, 20 years later, when you're now trying to pull something off the tape, it's complete garbage. Like,
you're like, it's just snow. It's nothing but snow.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that was pretty much it. And then, like I said, 8 or 9 years ago, I had found, actually longer than that, in 1999, I actually went to my first seminar with Guru. He came to St. Louis, and it was at the, like, I want to say it was like Creve Coeur Recreation Center or something like that. It was hosted by Apex Training Center, which I believe I think they still are operating currently. Where almost all the instructors that I work with now were all guys that most of them started.
That's Joe, right? I think Joe, right?
Yeah, it's Joe Craig.
He's still on.
And then all the guys I'm with now at Applied Combatives Group, which is where Jay Rapasso, Matt Stumpf.
Yeah, that
Jen Red, like all those guys. Yeah.
Of course. Totally.
So,
if I'm calling him that,
Yeah. So I'm with all those guys currently, but
Mr. Always like here. I love the fact that he just pops up, and then like he's in contest with, I think Dwight now wants to compete with him on. Okay, we got to compete with him and Jen on how many cities and how
Oh
many
my God.
seminars.
It
And I'm
was,
like, well, they got such a head start on you, dude. But it's actually, that would be a fun contest. Good for you.
oh my God. Yeah. I think right when I first joined that group, Dwight was talking to a couple that was there. He's like, and they're at every seminar. I'm like, I know exactly who he's talking about. I know exactly who he's talking about because they are there. I mean, always there. I mean, their dedication is amazing and fantastic.
Well, damn, that is a good group though for you. Oh my
Oh
God,
yeah.
that's a good group. I mean, I would love if I was anywhere close. That would be who I'd love to be down there training with you guys too.
Oh yeah, they're great. Like I said, it's I started. It was a Father's Day, a June. They were like, hey, for June, fathers can train for free for a month.
Oh, that's cool.
And I just happened to see that advertised on it, maybe like Facebook or something like that. And I had been interested in martial arts my whole life, obviously, but I always had been specifically interested in Jeet Kune and Filipino martial arts since I was about 15. Once I really discovered Bruce Lee and Guru Dan, and every consumed every issue of Black Belt or Inside Kung Fu.
Bingo. There we go.
So I had always wanted to train in those arts, and Apex was just outside of my reach distance-wise from where I lived, so I never really had the chance or the funds to do that. And then when this came up, and I saw the ad, and I Googled the school, and I was like, "Oh wow, this sounds perfect." Checked out the excuse me, that first month, and I was like, "I'm sold." I was hooked, and I've been training pretty consistently ever since. I mean, other than our 1 year hiatus for COVID, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's all great instructors. One of the great things is, I think, is there's enough instructors and everybody has their kind of own take on how they want to do things.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if how well, I mean, I'm sure you've met Eric before. He's one of the instructors, but like Eric is very combatives oriented, which is great. Very realistic oriented, very, applicable. Matt and Jen are, not only are they combatives, interested, but like their curriculum, they're so curricularly motivated and focused. Right. Like every time he comes back from a seminar, he's like, hey, we saw Guru for the weekend and we were doing this, and he actually wanted us to adjust how we do Hubud. Instead of doing it like this, he wants us to adjust this arm position by like half an inch and see how it changes things. And you're like, okay, cool. And then we do that, and it's great. And Jay, he's training a lot with Daniel Lanero and the XTMA guys, so he's bringing stuff back from there, and so it's really great. There's so many different approaches that I can kind of see what works for me as Jeet Kune.
Right. No, it's a great crew. I mean, now that I've interviewed a couple of them, and I didn't kind of understand that was sort of the structure of Matt's school.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at their website and I'm like, wow, okay, this is actually a really good staff. Like, you've got a good crew of people there.
Yeah.
And I think what happens sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes with when you're looking at someone like Guru Dan, you're looking at the apex, you look at the top of the top, and you start thinking like, okay, and so that starts to become your norm.
Yeah.
And you go, wait a second, and it's like I've said to people before. I said, here's the funny thing: there are other people that teach at the academy, me being one of them, and I keep thinking I'm the slouch compared to the rest of them, but it's just like everyone else is a fucking A-team starter anywhere.
Oh yeah,
right. But you're comparing them to Guru, and you're like, yeah, we're the bench warmers, but it's like, okay, but realistically, there's so many good people out there, and I get the benefit of being there. I'm helping out with the instructor camps, so I get to see everybody come in. So I've watched over the last 15 years of being an instructor myself there, seeing the development of people over 15 years as instructors who are coming in from out of town. And it's just great. I mean, there's just a lot of really good people out there who are developing not only the stuff they're learning, but then they're developing their knowledge of it and their spin on it. and their takes on it because of their own experience. And it's all really damn valuable,
Oh yeah.
especially to like a student. So it's not like, you've got one A grade instructor, you've got about a dozen.
Yeah, it definitely.
And they're kicking you in a direction that you're coming up with stuff, because the atmosphere is that it's open, it's creative, and I mean, you're gonna find stuff too that your instructor is gonna go, oh wow, yeah. I mean, I've got my 19-year-old student who's, these two kids that I've been they're 20 and 19.
Sure. Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
But yeah, they'll bring something back every once in a while. They'll do something. I'm like, God damn, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I told them, so we're putting that in. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, you see, I definitely see that a lot. Like, just being able to get this, I mean, the same thing, like, like if we're doing a Espada Daga with Matt, it's we're very, very curricular. We're doing it in a very, very technical kind of standpoint of like, this is
be like that guy's a teacher or something, like,
yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
Like, it's very technical. It's like we're going very curricularly and technical, and it's like, and for me, I love it because I'm like, of course I train to be able to defend myself, my family. That's like, sure. That's really secondary, just because I just really enjoy training and learning how to move my body, and I really enjoy the problem solving aspect of the arts. Is like,
it has to be, because I mean, seriously, you said you're 47, right? It's like, look, I don't think we're being bullied anymore, and it's like that whole idea. We don't live in a war zone. We don't tend to. I think most of us live in a neighborhood that is where you're worried about getting knifed when you walk outside the door. So, yeah, I mean, that combative is there. Obviously, we know that it's possible. But in the end, if you're doing something more than, a few years, you're beyond the idea of, okay, you've learned what you need to learn physically as far as technique to actually defend yourself. You don't need a lot. The rest of it is really just stress inoculation, mental training to deal with the aggression that would come in a situation like that. But the rest of this, it better be fun, or why would you stay with it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's got like, I've had discussions in the groups and whatnot, like, people talking about, what's combatively applicable, or is this going to work? And I'm like, the statistical likelihood of a 47-year-old white guy living in the Midwest having to fight a group of 3 people at the same time is 0.
Right.
Sure. Do I feel very comfortable in a situation like that? Pretty comfortable. Like, I don't like it, but I feel comfortable. But I train because, damn, it's fun.
Sure.
Like, there's nothing like getting in there. And like, my wife even points out, like, last week was my kid's homecoming week. And it just so happened that every single day that I would normally be training, there was something coming up and I couldn't go.
Right.
So by the end of the week, she was like, I swear to God, you have to go train next week. Go every day that you can. She's like,
you're bitchy.
Yeah, she's like, I can tell that you're just in a terrible mood and you need to go do something. And yeah, I mean, like, just getting in there and clicking the sticks, or just light sparring for a few minutes. God, it's so much fun, and it just pulls all of that stress and frustration out of your body, and it just feels so good. And then being able to pass that information on to other people.
Right.
Being able to teach other people that it just feels so good, because I used to tell my kids, my family all the time, like, I don't know what the hell I want to do with my life. I didn't know. And in the past couple of years, I'm like, oh, no, I really like to teach. Like, I would really.
I was going to say, wait a second. Are we supposed to figure something like that out? Are you telling me that?
Like,
oh, Jesus.
Like,
I'm way late on this thing.
Yeah, by now you should know. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But yeah, I'm like, now I kind of realize, like,
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Shaun Snow. Coming up next week, I connect to Hawaii, and I talk with martial artist Carl Carlisle. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available with new t-shirt designs and more products coming soon. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Jackal Relic. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.